Interpretation, where language meets culture, is an art in its own right. Mr. Li Huihuan performs this artistry every day by giving meanings to words as a professional interpreter. Now, at the hallmark of his career, he is responsible for the interpretations in Singapore's parliament.
当然有一些就可能比较敏感了。
And of course, some other news could be more sensitive.
所以比方说，我们常会收到的是关于个人的健康的保健的问题这是其一。
For example, the news regarding the health and the healthcare materials.
Presently, Mr. Li now balances life as an interpreter and a senior adjunct lecturer at the National University of Singapore. Although Mr. Li's profession is a difficult one, he is still able to motivate his students to join the industry.
Well, I celebrated my 50th anniversary as an interpreter last year. To be exact, I started working as an interpreter in the courts way back on the 1st of March 1968.
However, Mr. Li's path has not always been this easy. In his earlier years, his tight financial situation became a huge driving force in his motivations to become an interpreter.
And because of my stubbornness in choosing a subject combination which was not recognized by the government, so my bursary was withdrawn and I had to find some job, find some way to earn some money to support myself. And suddenly I saw in the newspaper that the courts were looking for interpreters. And the prerequisite is that you should, of course, be conversant in both Chinese and English, plus Hokkien and one other dialect. So I told myself, well, I'm a Hokkien, so Hokkien is no problem, and I speak Cantonese very fluently with my neighbors, and I know a bit of Chinese, I know a bit English, so I went and applied, and I was just taken in, just like that. I was a bit, what shall I say, a bit uncertain, because I have never, as I said, I have never been trained. I never attended even one lesson in interpretation or translation.
Mr. Jonny earned his master's in interpreting, but switched to become a freelance translator eventually.
First of all, I have to say that I have 10 years of being a freelance translator, which means that I didn't go to a company or I didn't go to an office for my work. But during the 10 years, I've been translating like academic articles, like journal articles, and I also subtitling videos like movies, TV series, and animations. After that, I realized that interpreting is really a nerve-wracking task. And so I think it takes some kind of talent, like quick response and then quick organization of speech for being a good interpreter.
There is a common misconception that translation and interpretation are the same. However, both professions have one key difference.
I think the biggest difference is that translation, you only work at home or in the office and then you translate words, written words. But for interpreting, you have to go to a venue or maybe via phone or mobile phone. But mostly you do verbal translation. So the two things are very different.
Whereas when you do translation, you have the time, you can go through it, and certain words you don't know, you can check the dictionary, you can go to Google, or you can ask your friends, ask your colleagues. By interpretation, you're on the spot. So when the speaker stops, you start. You can't say, oh, wait, let me check my dictionary or this word I don't know, and you don't have that luxury. Okay, so it will also involve public speaking skill and also your body language. When a speaker says something in a very light or happy mood, you cannot put on a very grim face and translate it in such a gloomy way, and that will twist the whole meaning of the speech. But then, for different culture, you have different meaning and different nuances. So that is why we have to keep ourselves constantly on the toe and to learn whatever that we need to know.
For political texts, you need to be more careful. You have to confirm with the client's terms and some kind of sensitive words, because it's politics, and so some people care a lot about the word you use.
Mr. Lee reiterates the immense significance of his role as a parliament and court interpreter.
We have to be responsible and to commit ourselves to give us the best in our job. And usually for a conference of that kind, particularly when it's a technical one, we have to prepare glossaries and read up all the relevant materials or papers, and then with the English, Chinese glossary. And this is part of our job. And sometimes it takes more time to do all this than the actual work itself. Like for example, once in court, I was interpreting and this witness said, 以後我看一張死的人的相 in Hokkien. So without thinking, I just interpreted. He showed me a photograph of 4 persons. And then the lawyer, was Mr. David Marshall, was a very senior, top criminal lawyer in Singapore. So he asked, who were the 4 persons in the photo? 你講死嘅人是多死嘅阿迪咯，你講有什麼人？冇了咯。你唔是講死嘅人 ？I thought you said 4 persons。冇，我講迄個阿迪啦，迄個死嘅人啦，迄個死嘅。Actually in Hokkien, see, fall and die sounds the same. So immediate thinking was that, oh, he showed me a photograph of 4 persons, but then what he really meant was a photograph of this deceased person.
Mr. Lee has spoken for many prominent figures, with the most memorable being the late minister mentor, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew.
So whenever we interpret, he will listen very carefully, and he has his own preference for certain words or certain phrases. So sometimes when we translate something which we thought was correct, and he would, without hesitation, he would just turn his head and say, no, that's not correct. And he will, correct me on the spot. And sometimes it's very embarrassing, you're sitting around with all the big shots and suddenly PM just said, no, that's wrong. But then of course, I mean, a man of his wisdom, he knew what he was saying. And I must say, he has a very strong vocabulary of words, Chinese words, and he knew exactly what is the term to be used. And there's something what we call politically sensitive. So you have to interpret it in a way that is politically sensitive so that you will not offend the other side or any other person.
With the increasing use of artificial intelligence, there are concerns that apps might replace the role of interpreters in the future.
It will help, especially in translation, but not so much in interpretation. So who would want to listen to some robot speaking to them in courts or something? I think the personal touch is still there. And because interpreting involves not only the language, it's the meaning and also the expression and also the gesture and all that. So I don't think machines can fully replace a human in interpretation.
Now retired, Mr. Lee finds personal fulfillment in spreading his optimism to his class. He continues to inspire his students on the importance of interpretation and bridges understanding between languages.